Good evening. I'd like to go ahead and call the North Stonington Board of Finance meeting to order. My name is Paul Simons, Chairman. With us tonight are Mike Anderson, Carl Johnson, Gary Anino, Dan Smith, Sarah Nelson, and online, I believe, our two alternates, Amy Friend and Winona Birdine are here. I guess we'll go right to public comments if there are any. Please go right ahead. It's actually held, I think it's somewhere around the clip. Pull it out of the clip. All these instructions. That's always helpful.
Thank you, Bob. Such a gentleman. John Achokis, Rocky Hollow Road. So the reason I'm here is because Mike asked at Monday's meeting what we should do with that extra money. And I would like to see it have the mill rate reduced. And one of the main reasons being is that in the past 5 years, my taxes have gone up 19.54%. And I know some of you have seen double-digit increases and others of you have not. But when I asked Mike Ergo last year, when the reassessment was happening, it's actually Mike and Christine, I said, can you tell me the number of residential households in North Stonington? And there's 2,192 residential homes. 1,647 of those homes, or 75%, had an increase in their assessment of at least 10%. That was the average. So I guess my point with those numbers is that 75% of the residents are seeing a significant increase to their tax base and over the 5 years. And I would, if there's an opportunity this year to see that mill rate decrease and our taxes decrease, that's what I'm a fan of. I know there's a lot of emotional driven asks, you know, more money for the school, more money for the fire department. For me, it's more money for conservation land. I know I'll never see that, but that's my passion. That's what I would love. But in all fairness, I just think a decrease in the mill rate is where I would like to see the Finance Committee lean towards. I know it's small this year. I'm hoping for a bigger one next year. And I think the goal of your budget, the budget process is interesting to me as I've been really watching it closely. I just think, and it's not the right time for this meeting, but there can be some adjustments as to how to make it more equitable and less emotional and more data driven. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other public comments? Anyone online? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't log in. No comments. Great. So review of previous, we'll go on for public, beyond public comments since there are no more. Previous minutes. I'm sorry, I did not review any. I don't think I saw any either.
They didn't come out until early this afternoon.
Okay.
So I apologize for that. I meant to send them yesterday.
No, that's okay. So we'll move past that and go right into the primary focus of tonight's meeting, and that's the budget discussions. So town hearing went smoothly, I thought, the other night. Variety of different comments, no single topic that I think was sweeping. We had less than 1% of the voters that night. So just want to start those discussions now and see where everybody's thinking about our budget as it is and where we should go from here. If anybody has any, please.
So before you go into budget discussion, I just want to give the update. The Board of Assessment Appeals had their process. So there was a minor adjustment to the grand list numbers overall. So the BAA adjustment was 177,741 in assessed value. So the total net grand list is now 597,543,542. So at the 28.6 mill rate, the surplus to go into the undesignated fund would be 104,482 instead of the 109 that we were talking about last time. So I just wanted you to have that before you started your discussions.
No, that's good.
104,482.
So that delta is some $4,500 or something like that. Okay. Okay. hey,
Paul?
I heard my name.
Hi, it's Winona.
Hola, how are you?
Good, thank you. I wanted to ask Sarah if she could present. She had taken a little tally during the meeting of topics that came up and the counts for each of them. And I went back and reviewed my notes and did the same. So I don't know if we could just start with that.
Yeah, if Sarah's prepared for that. Sure. I
Sure.
can put you on the spot.
Sorry, Sarah.
Thanks, Winona. I'd be glad to know if we're somewhat in the same frame. So took a lot of notes, a lot of qualitative data, tried to pull out some quantitative data based on that. So I made a couple of assumptions when people, a couple of times people made a comment around put it back where you cut it. So I made that category return to budgets and just, put some tallies there. So overall, I got 2 requests to look at putting some money away for the transfer station, the concerns there. 3 requests to return money to budgets in general without a specific guidance. One person brought up the tunnel, which I would love to talk about at some other time because I keep, every time I walk through that tunnel, I'm like, I need to ask about the tunnel. We just had one public comment tonight, talk about lowering tax. That's the first one so far. Debt, putting it on debt was one. 3 people talked about one-time expenses. So didn't reference anything specific, but I put that under a capital budget bucket. So 3 votes for that, 2 votes for putting money back in the 298 line item because they were concerned about that. 3 requests to increase the selectmen's salary stipends, and 1 for the senior center coordinator, and 3 for the undesignated fund. So really, Paul, all over the place, like you said. So
So
don't
the
know
only
what-
difference that I had, Sarah, that's substantial is when I counted everything, like for the school, whenever there was talk about adding tech back to the school, the parking lot, the tunnel, and then 2 comments on just giving the school their money back. The school ended up with 6 votes, the way I did the tally, which was the highest number of votes that I had next to the first selectman's salary.
yeah, that I didn't roll it up to that level. That makes sense. If I go back and look, it's probably similar.
So for my count, the one that got the most was giving money back to the Board of Ed. The second one was the first selectman salary. And then the third would have been apply it towards capital, and the rest had fewer votes than all of those remaining.
Okay, no, thank you for that. So I think there was a pretty broad opinion of what any surplus would be best, but I did have some conversation. Go ahead, Bob.
Since one of those pertains to me, can I take that off the board? So I'm not looking for an increase. So take that right off the board. Thank you.
Thank you. And actually, since we spoke, it's around, a lot of those things probably go to the Board of Selectmen budget, capital, things like that. And talking with you and the Board of Education, they're saying that their budgets are fine the way they are. No requests for any monies for any adjustments that they made to come back. So I like to approach it from that direction, that these 2 board leaders aren't looking for the adjustments we asked them to make to come back in any way. So,
I mean, that being said, Paul.
Yeah.
I think it's still up for discussion whether or not a couple of things, the one thing that concerns me is this walking floor trailer. I talked to Donnie after the meeting. I said, do you need this thing? And he's like, he's worried about it. And we saw We saw the shape of it, and if we can pay for all of it, it's one of those one-time expenditures, right? Right now, we have $46,000 in there. That'd be my one suggestion is pay for that thing right now. And correct me if I'm wrong, Bob, you said something about $7,500 you needed for additional, you'd think increases in some union wages.
Yeah, we did say that because we hadn't started the negotiation with the Steelworkers Union yet. However, through additional investigation by Christine in the town hall, that we found that we should be all set without adding that in. So I'm not asking for that anymore.
Okay, that's good. So even with that $46,000 back into the walking trailer that now is paid for in full, correct? If we did that?
Where, yeah, you approved half of it. So yes.
Leaves 58,482. And my opinion on what to do with that is debt reduction. I liked how, John Olson had it, he had it at the full amount over 30 years. How much does that save us in the end? It was like, what was it? $90,000 was like, from what did he start with on that? 109, it saves $90,000 in debt over that 30-year period. I mean, it doesn't make everyone feel warm and fuzzy right now. But we are the Board of Finance and doing something that's really puts a bite in to something that we are going to have. And the reason why we did certain notes the way we did for the school was, it was at a 30-year amortization, but it was all, you could pay it off early. You could pay into it. You could pay more than principal. So my 2 cents.
It's a good one. No, thank you for that.
I think the fastest way to put money back into taxpayers' pockets is to get rid of our debt. And it feels very insurmountable, but every little chip made at it is gonna, because if we free up that cash flow, what are we paying out annually in debt?
This,
Yep.
yeah, so you would need to decide which project you wanted to put the money towards, the Center for Emergency Services or the school project. And then if it was the school project, we have 3 loans. So.
Any other comments?
Yeah, so one thing that was said, and I forgot who said it in the meeting, but it resonated with me, was it was almost an unfair split of the reduction, that we went 50-50, but the Board of Ed has 2/3 of the budget. That was a little, that kind of hit me. But I differ a little bit in the opinion. I think the best way to impact the taxpayer is to reduce the mill rate, because that's sort of the gift that keeps on giving. So if we use it to pay the mill rate down, everyone's taxes are less until such time that we have to raise the mill rate again.
Yeah, I think it's just a debt philosophy, right? Like clear out your debt and then you have more cash flow to actually give back to the town. So like pay off all your credit cards and then you get a raise. It's like that.
And what is the interest rate we're paying on that debt? It's a fantastic number, right?
2 of the loans are 2.75. The smaller loan on the school is, I want to say either, I want to go with 2.25, but it might be a little bit lower than that. And I think the CES is 2.75. I didn't bring that folder, sorry.
No, it's a nice rate, that's for sure. But there's never anything wrong with paying off debt, that's for sure. I too am one that's in favor of debt reduction too, but mill rate reductions. That's an immediate impact to wallets. May not be huge, but it's certainly an impact. Would love to hear the other comments for maybe those who haven't spoke online or others in the room.
Can we maybe put a consensus out there that, how many people wanted to go to the undesignated fund?
Mike, can we get some initial comments first before? we do
Sure,
that?
yeah.
Please.
I just thought we could eliminate one.
Yeah, what is the principal payment for each one of those projects? Do we have it? We don't have that? Are we able to make a principal only payment or do we have to include?
Yes, so when we closed out the Center for Emergency Services project, we were able to take the small amount that was left and do a principal payment and redo the amortization schedule. So we do have an updated amortization schedule for that project. That one's a 20-year loan where the school loans are 30-year loans.
Are we able to make a principal only payment on both projects?
We can make a principal payment on any of
Sometimes you're
any of the
not
4
able-
loans.
Okay, any of the 4 loans?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, the way the USDA is, they allow you to do that.
Carl, were you reaching for the mic or? No. Oh.
My only fear is if we do the debt, I'm more for either the debt or the mill rate. But I'm also fearful, we had decided not to go to the undesignated fund or the fund to supply anything during the course of the year. If the trailer blows up and he has to do something, they're gonna be back. If something blows up at the school, they're gonna be back. So I don't know, I guess I'm kind of squishy squashy here, but I would be nice to have my taxes reduced. But also if you take and hammer out one of them loans as fast as we can, we got $30,000 or $60,000 a year to work with the next couple of years. So I guess I'm not giving you an answer. am I?
Not so much, no, but I'm hearing you. And I think we're all kind of the same. We're very close, I think. So I think that goes without saying. If anything happens at the dump or at the school and something goes sideways, this is why we have an undesignated fund. So that's true in every single year.
Just so we're clear, is $3,042,535 in that undesignated fund right now, which is 14.43% of our expenditures.
And the school is
So I'm
also
not-
sitting on nearly 300,000 themselves. So there's a lot of money sitting around waiting to be used for something. So very good financial shape.
So I would think as long as everybody understands that there may be something come up that we have to use that fund for, which is what it's supposed to be for. I think we could either reduce the mill rate or when we throw some at the debt. That's where I'm at.
No, okay, that's good.
I am for low in the mill rate. Like Gary was saying, the best way to put money in people's pockets are directly through that mill rate reduction. If you had to go do one thing, we can extrapolate everything out of what we had the other night of, people want to talk about, capping the dump or anything. What we need to remember is we're going to get into hopefully a large construction project pretty soon of removing that wing down there, and is not going to be cheap. And we have, bless you, we're going to have to, we have a large chunk of money for that right now, but it's going to take more. We're probably going to have to go finance, and that is also going to be debt on top of what we're already paying for the school and the EMS building. So, but that was over when we had the town meeting and to discuss what they wanted to do with the ARPA fund money. That was over, if I'm right, Bob, that was overwhelmingly, they want, the town wants that wing gone. And that is going to take a lot of money, and it's going to take a lot of effort to do that. So we can extrapolate what we talked about last night, the other night, about capping the dump and everything, 2-3 people here, 2-3 people here. But from that meeting, it was a large, we want that wing gone, and it's going to take a lot of money. And we have to figure out how we're going to finance that. So I think we need to put that on our radar also.
No, I think you're right. That's a big project. I think it's a little too abstract right now to really fully understand it. I'm not sure if it's 1.3, 1.9, 2.8 million. I have no idea what that might be. coming out of tonight's meeting, Christine, so would we have to have a proposed mill rate?
So it's advised that you have a proposed mill rate so that the last page of the unofficial last page of the budget packet shows what the theoretical mill rate is, along with how much would be going to or coming out of the undesignated fund. So people can look at things as a full package and how it's going to impact them. That's not official. You can't
Okay.
set the mill rate until you've approved a budget. But it is recommended that you have it.
Thank you.
We have to show that we are going to referendum with a balanced budget, with how much we're taking out of the undesignated fund to show that.
You don't have to. The people are only voting on the expense side of the budget. They're not voting on the budget as a whole.
Okay.
What is one of the debts that are done? Isn't the ambulance done this year?
Yes,
And what's that payment a year?
60, just under 65,000.
So next year we have everything was the same, we have 67,000 already to go towards capital to start with.
Yes.
And then the next one after that's what, another 3 years after that?
The over the rail mower, 25,000, there's 2 payments left on that.
Back to your question, Mike, were you gonna suggest some kind of a,
I just want to go back to the walking trailer. I know that there was a lot of comments about how they were happy to hear that we were not going to keep things out of the budget that we knew would probably come up as an appropriation over the year. And I mean, this is a thing it's not a want, it's a need, and we're going to be paying for it. Half now and half then, or it doesn't matter. It's getting paid for. We have the money for it right now. And with, all due respect to Bob saying it doesn't need it in his budget, we have $104,000. And then, I will keep an open mind as to what everyone wants to do with the remaining balance, but it's something I think it's going to happen, and we know it's going to happen. So why kick the can down the road?
no, I think, it's a reasonable argument. We heard some good news that it's coming next year. Something's going to be paid off. So there will be some funds available for a wash once we're done paying for the ambulance. I think if there is a year this year to raise the lower taxes, this would be it. It might be again next year, depending on how much more good news we get. So is there any interest in a straw poll, which I thought is where you were going, tax relief or some other meaning?
Hi,
Sorry.
it's Martina again. I'm sorry. I want to ask about the walking floor trailer. What's the worst case scenario if it just is not usable? Is there an alternative to get us through 6 months to the next budget season, or is it something that would have to be replaced immediately? Do we know that? Do we know what happened?
So I know what was explained to me was that when they take the trailer that's full, the one that's not going to be replaced, to Lisbon to dump it, they put the other trailer in that spot. So then that's where the trash goes while the other one's en route and coming back. It makes it more convenient. So then in the past, they've just let that one stay there, load that one up, and then when that goes, they put the other one there. So they're taking them back and forth. Is there a way to, I guess if you didn't have the transfer station open when you made that trucking over to Lisbon and back, that might be a possibility.
Thank you.
Bob, what was the lead time for that trailer? Is that something we buy off the lot somewhere?
I think Donnie was looking at 4 or 5 months, maybe. I'm just guessing at that. It was not going to happen quickly.
Okay.
So the other thing, what happens if they fill the first one on the second day of the transfer station open? And we don't have if they fill the first one on the second day of the transfer station, what do you do with the trash for the next 2 days? That would be the bad scenario of what.
Right, that's
that would come up.
exactly, Carl, that's the question.
Bob, what do you make of the fact that initial conversations from that department were for a new truck once we found out that they can tune it up, it's running well. Now this surprise
So
trailer popped up.
that's the one reason why I haven't pushed to put it back in, because originally that wasn't on the radar. It was
That's my
something that came
recollection,
upon us later. If that was on the radar originally, I would have said, yeah, from the start of the budget season, we would have put it back, but it didn't. Showed up after the other truck was repaired. So, yeah, I understand what you're saying, Michael. But I'm thinking that I think we can work around it if we had to. If we have to go back to another appropriation, I would hate to do that because we've told the taxpayer we don't want to do that. It's not the way we want to do our budgets.
Right.
To see.
Oh, I understand. No one has a crystal ball. The fact that it wasn't being looked at initially, but we found out that we had possibly some capital monies available because we didn't need a truck or whatever it was we were buying. This kind of popped up. That feels different to me.
Mhm.
Would it qualify as a rainy day? Would it come, I mean, if we needed the extra 42,000 or whatever?
If the truck died.
Yeah.
It would have to come through it. It would be one of those cases we'd have to come back to the town and say, we told you we didn't want to do a lot of appropriations, but the truck's sitting on 395. It won't run anymore. We have to do something about it, right? So, but the thing with last year's truck was a little different. That truck was in the process of rotting and becoming dangerous over a period of time. We know that couldn't go any farther because they really couldn't drive it anymore. So,
No, I'm not being critical of the decision. I just want to know that there is an alternative that
well, that's what the rainy day fund is for,
Bingo.
but you want it for the taxpayers' sake. You want to kind of limit the number of times you go for appropriations because the taxpayer typically looks at the budget and say, that's what it costs to run the town. There's always going to be surprises, there's going to be emergencies, but you want to best guess, this is what it's going to cost to run the town. And if there's anything left over, it goes into the undesignated fund, which is still taxpayer dollars. It's just now it's in a savings account or a rainy day fund, but that's why we have it.
No, I agree. That's the reason why it's there, for those things that Carl brought up, or, initially, that something goes sideways.
This is not one of those things. This is
Yeah.
a known cost.
No cost, and it's running now. So there is nothing broken that needs to be replaced.
According to Donnie, when I talked to him after the meeting, he's gonna need it.
Eventually, I think we will, just like we'll need money to tear this down. I mean, I think all those costs are coming, whether imminent, that's another discussion,
Well, will you, this isn't coming from the Board of Selectmen, but, and then I know we had public comment, but will you entertain a comment or request from a commission? Because I was at their meeting today, the Cemetery Commission, and they came to the meeting tonight, and I said, the Board of Selectmen have already voted on their budget, so I can't, as a selectman, without the other two selectmen voting on it, push this forward to ask you to advocate for this. But the Cemetery Commission wanted to talk to the board about a small increase in their line item. I told them, this is the last chance. You can't, did not go through the proper channel, which is come to the Board of Selectmen, go to our meeting, we vote and go to you, but they can come to the Board of Finance direct, I believe. And
Yeah,
that's what they're
yeah,
doing.
sure.
So would you entertain I thought it was going to happen during public comment, but it didn't happen. So
Oh, well, absolutely. We'll do that. Would you be interested in telling us what that request might be and what you're asking of us, please?
I
That
don't
might
know
be
how to use
finicky.
this. It's on, okay. At first, we thought that our budget was going to be less than we see that it is. I'm sorry. I'm Diane Preston. I am the president of the North Stonington Cemetery Commission. We weren't aware of the amount of money being given to us, and we were afraid that it might have been cut. We have, as you know, over 50 cemeteries, which we try to maintain. And any cut to the basically small amount that we get each year, it could be devastating. So this is why David Feedy, who is our treasurer, and I decided to attend tonight. I do see that we have been given 7,000 for the next fiscal year. We could definitely use perhaps 1,000 more. David himself does a lot of the maintenance for these cemeteries, but if for some reason he is unable to do so, I mean, it's a big burden and we have to hire other people. So if we could request another 1,000 perhaps for the budget for next year, it would be very helpful.
you have a line item for that? What, are you saying that it was cut this year? Is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying, no, it was not cut.
B30.00 is the cemetery commission. Their budget was 7,000 for the current year and it's being maintained at that in the proposed budget.
Well, what was explained to me
One more
today
time.
was the cemetery commission in the past has been pretty,
30.00.
cemetery commission in the past, basically what they do is they would put flags out on Memorial Day and Veterans Day, and they would maintain by cutting grass and weed whacking, basically upkeep like that. In the last few years, they've taken a step further. A lot of the cemeteries have been damaged over the years. I helped work on one called the Brown Randall Cemetery. And a lot of the gravestones have been broken. These are military men, probably great grandfathers, grandmothers. And they're now restoring a lot of these stones and trying to bring these cemeteries back. And it's the history of North Stonington. These are people that were born and raised in North Stonington, went to war, died, and that's a part of it. So because this extra work is going in now, it's not just cutting grass and putting flags in the ground. They're actually doing work to restore. And there's a certain thought about the history of our town and how we always want to protect the young people coming in, but we don't want to forget about who was here before us. So
Absolutely.
when she mentioned this to me today, I said, I can't as a selectman, because we didn't vote on this, but you could come to the meeting and you could advocate. So that's why I just
No,
wanted to add that
That's-
piece.
That's great. No, thank you for that. I mean, it's an important part of the history of the town. My history here isn't very long, but we want to maintain what we have. And 50 cemeteries for a very modest budget sounds like it's, you're doing a great job.
Well, thank you. We try and we would like to do more restoration. We've been relying on a lot of volunteerism and even for that, but just to clean stones, to make them legible again. The product, which is a product that's used at Arlington and for all the national monuments, it's quite expensive. It's
Sure.
like $80 a gallon. You know,
Hmm.
So, I mean, a little bit goes a long way, but it's,
No, I understand.
you know, when you have
50 cemeteries, yeah.
485 veterans that we know of buried throughout North Stonington. And just the maintenance is quite a bit. Plus,
Sure.
we would like to move towards restoration, but I think we're going to have to look at grants for that.
Right. No, it's a noble cause. And I think it's one we all appreciate that you do.
Thank you.
So it's certainly not a lot of money. I mean, is there any other, you want to comment on the request?
I'm a little worried about the late addition to the budget process. I am
I
fully
understand.
supportive. But every other function of the town that gets part of the budget comes and makes a presentation and we try to make sure it's balanced approach. I will, Don, or Diane afterwards, see me and I'll make a donation. But I don't think we should make an addition to the budget outside of the process that all the other groups go through.
I understand. Yes.
It-
Next year we'll be more prepared. for
Yeah,
this.
it sets up an inequity for all the other very good functions in town that need,
I do see your point.
that's just my opinion.
That's one reason why I didn't step up earlier. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Brett Mastriani, you're recognized.
Hi, guys. I just wanted to echo Bob's support of this. If this came in front of the selectmen when during the process, I would have supported this as well and voted for it. So I ask that you guys really think about this. It's happened before when you guys added things to budgets after the fact. This wouldn't be anything new. I know that that was just mentioned that this would be outside the norm, but Board of Finance has that luxury to be able, and that openness to add these things after the fact. And yes, would we have liked to see it come during the time frame? We would have, or I would have, but it didn't. But we did catch it, or it was caught before it went to a town, the town meeting in the budget vote. So I ask that you guys really think about supporting it. It's a small amount for the amount of work they do to preserve our history. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett.
So an outside the box thought that we could do is we do have our grant writer we could ask him to look into grant opportunities for the preservation side of what we want to accomplish. And then after we have found out about those grants, we can come for an additional appropriation that you would already know you're going to have the revenue to offset. So if you're not comfortable moving it forward right now, we can pursue that with the grant writer. I mean, I think we're going to ask him anyway to look into it, but at least this way you can then do an additional appropriation, knowing that you have the revenue offset secured.
No, thank you for that. I mean, that's certainly a good option. Any other thoughts from the board?
Do you have records, Dan, of what you guys have spent in the last 4 to 5 years? I mean, even if, I mean, you've had a budget of, it looks like you had actuals last year of 69, 67, which was just a little bit under what was approved. Has that been similar in the years prior to that? Come on up, yeah.
I mean, feel free to bring it back to your chair if you like.
Who am I? David Feedy, Winterchalk Hill, North Stonington. In the past, Diane and myself have been asked to step into a situation that has been the town tradition of giving $5,000 to a person who volunteered his time, would hire a person, they would come in and do cemetery clearings and so forth when they could, if they could get them this year, if not next year, submitted a bill for $4,900 in the story. And that went on for years. Now, all of a sudden, when Mike was there, he said, no, that should change a little bit. We should have more accountability. So I came up with a invoice type of an invoice saying cemetery number 84 Wheeler Cemetery, where it was located. And I did the mowing and trimming and so forth. So when we hired this other people, I would say it took me 3 hours and the job is going to be X amount of dollars. Do you want it or not? And yes, they took it. He initialed it. I submitted it to the town. They paid the bill and so forth. Records show, and I have those, that what we spent for some equipment, because in the past, I've been using my own and this other person was, and volunteers been using their own. And excuse me, finally said the town has to, if we're volunteering, support us with some equipment, you know, give us some line trim and so forth. So it involved in that. Yes, we do have records. And first year we took over as we were talking among ourselves, and all of a sudden Diane was president, I was secretary, and what happened, but that's what happened. And we took the job and ran with it a little bit. And from there, we just developed, we used what we had on the line item. And now we're just looking for a little bit more to do more. In the last year, we've got signs that number of the cemetery, name of it and so forth on good poles and so forth. So visible from the road, or where the homeowner did not want it in front of their house, we put it in the back where the cemetery leads, 15-minute walk into the woods to find the cemetery. You know what? Those guys did their job. I think we should do our job. And that's what it is. And now Diane and 2 new people on the committee are looking to do more of the historical part to bring to light of the veterans and so forth. I'm not going to do that because I can't get down to read those names and everything, but I'll trim and I'll do, and I'll keep the committee going, or as much as I can help. But the young lady is in charge.
Right.
And when we said, well, we'll come tonight, we didn't know what the hell we're doing, you know, but hey, we're here, we're just, you know.
It was perfect.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, can I ask, why isn't town garage, cutting grass and doing trimming?
I don't know the answer to that question, Paul, but I know that they also cut an awful lot of grass and a lot of town buildings we have. I mean, they do it, not so much at the school because they have their own, but we do have the old firehouse, they have the new firehouse. We do the 298 building, we do, I think they do the library just before graduation, they do the town halls, the rec field. I mean, there is quite, and they do highway cutting, there's quite a bit they do.
Oh, no, there's no doubt about that, but this,
Come on up.
sorry.
gotta-
People online need to hear. Don't
Take
depart.
it with you.
No. In the past, we've been given a list of cemeteries and basically where they were in the Historical Society. Of course, this is all documented through the state and Historical Society. And it was cleaned by the town, and the past highway supervisors, they had people that would do that. Maybe they couldn't drive the payloaders anymore, and they would clean the cemeteries if someone requested it. But that's all gone. They're not doing that anymore. And the man who did it before us took it upon himself and his wife and documented everything they did, pictures and everything. When we got the job, we were given boxes of pictures and what they did in the past and so forth. And it's all well and fine, but the town didn't want to know about it. They just wanted it to be done, sorry, and take the money, do what you want to do with it, just get the job done. So, but like I said, we have to add a little more accountability. And that's what we did. We brought it up to that level. And now we should bring it up to another level. That's all. Anything else I can maybe not answer? Good. Excuse me?
When you sit down, then we'll bring you back up.
So,
The way I see it is like, it's no different than, yes, they're involved with the committee, but there's no difference than the public. They're here as a member of public, coming here at the hearing and saying, hey, put more money in Bob's line item, put more money in 298. This is, these people, need more money. And we told them, hey, if you want to add more comment, come to the Board of Finance meeting on Wednesday, and here they are. So Garrett, I absolutely, should they go through the proper channels and do it through the Board of Selectmen? Yes, but we have two selectmen here have already endorsed this. It's small dollars that goes a long way. I make a motion to add an additional $1,000 to line item B30.00.
Second.
any more discussion? From us, but thank you for that. I'm hearing you. I was gonna say almost the same thing, Mike, and that is the reason for tonight. We would have made adjustments to the Board of Education budget, Board of Selectmen budget, had we heard anything really resounding at the town hearing.
Other committees be forewarned, do not do this.
I'm good. So, Christine, will we have to execute on this motion, or can we just ask for you to adjust this?
So you're going to have to make a motion to add it into the budget. Then when we have the totals of any other changes you make, you will then vote on the totals of general government, redemption of debt, capital, and Board of Education to move to town hearing.
Okay, so first things first, there's a motion, a second. We had some discussion. Any other discussion?
I think it's just the right thing to do.
No, I think you're right. All in favor, we're talking about $1,000, is that what you said?
$1,000.
$1,000, all in favor, say aye.
6-0.
6-0-0. The motion passes.
Thank
You're
you.
very welcome. So this is, so now what I'm seeing now is there's going to be $103,482 extra, I should say. So can I ask this, what would, if the mill rate were 28.5 $1.45. Does that eclipse the $103,000?
If you change the mill rate to 28.45, you would have 15,196 surplus.
Still in surplus. And I just pulled that number out of my hat. You know, I just, so. Sorry? Yeah. I think it's probably close enough, and that feels like it's a reasonable place. So how does the board feel about a little bit of tax reduction? It'll be, what is it, 0.15 mils. We did make a slight adjustment. Board of Selectmen doesn't need any more cash. Board of Education doesn't need any more cash. The taxpayers feel some minor relief. Feels like we've done our job as the purse string holders of the town. What are your thoughts? I see the red light on. Maybe
No,
that's
no.
a legacy light. I'm not sure, but go ahead.
So when we talk about our like, because I wrote the balanced budget policy, which I pulled from other town policies. A part of that is making the proper investments in capital and maintenance so that we don't end up in an emergency situation. So I don't want to spend another $40,000 on the walking truck, but I really don't want to have it blow up on us in this fiscal cycle and have to go to a town meeting. So I'm inclined to say that's priority number one. If we are being fiscally responsible, we're getting the boiler in our house replaced before it blows up in the middle of winter, and it's a real problem. Like, that's how I look at it. Like, budget for it. Don't just say it's going to be an emergency. And then I'm happy to debate anybody. I'll go with the status quo on the mill rate versus the debt reduction. The bottom line, if you are fiscally conservative, paying off debt gives everybody more money in their pocket later on down the road. It's not a immediate gratification, but it is what's better for the town. But I know not a lot of people subscribe to that. I know I'm in the small percentage, but it's a fact.
Okay, thank you. Sure.
Christine, can we just see if we take the 103 and take off 46,000, what could we get for a mill rate reduction with the remaining amount?
I think it's like, I think it's 0.5. I think you're gonna be at 28.5.
What are we now?
28.6.
So if you changed it to 28.5, the amount left in surplus would be 44,624. So just shy of the 46. I did it the backwards.
I mean, but like Bob could move money around between line items. That wouldn't go to a town hearing. So that's,
Right.
yes, per our policy, I agree with you.
So the 44,000 goes into that line item for the walking trailer. The remaining goes to reduce the rate to 48.5. I mean, 28.5.
Yeah, that'd be tough. Yeah, so again, I'm still in a spot where I'm 28.45 debt reduction. I'm sorry, mill rate reduction. Yes, what Sarah said, yeah. Want to hear a few more comments, I guess, and then I'd like to get some new numbers. And I'm going to bring this to a motion and see how it shakes out. But what other thoughts might there be?
Does Winona or Amy have anything to add?
This is Winona.
Thank you, Winona. Go ahead.
I guess I'm wrestling with the debt reduction, wrestling between debt reduction and putting money into the undesignated fund, to be honest. Personally, the way I run my finances is I go for debt reduction first, but these interest rates are very low. And so the actual dollars associated with the loans, I mean, they're large loans, so the dollars are bigger than anything that most of us would have to worry about, but the interest rates are pretty low. There was only one comment in the meeting on Monday about lowering the mill rate. So I'm struggling to kind of get behind that really hardcore, to be honest. The walking floor trailer sounds like there's ways that we could get around that. So I'm wrestling with that one too, because I feel like maybe there's some repairs that could kind of get it along a few extra months if it needed, or the timing, as Bob mentioned, of just if you could take it to be dumped on the off days, perhaps that's a solution for the one that remains. And dollar wise, to move the mill rate from 15 basis points is just, it's not a lot. So I think as the Board of Finance, we need to figure out how does that money work best for the taxpayers as opposed to a 15 basis point mill rate reduction. Because I'm just not feeling like that's going to make a difference to a lot of people. So I think the debt would be my first go. And if we split some of it, the undesignated fund makes sense to me, because it's there for emergencies, and we know that emergencies happen.
Right, we have a fantastic balance in that because of all the good stewardship we have, so don't feel the real need to add to it, but certainly it's better than spending it. Thank you for that.
Just a data point on that. Christine did a quick calculation, because our policy says undesignated fund should be between 8.5 and 17%, and it's at 14.3. So I would agree, it's in a good place.
Yeah, real good place. Okay, so if I wanted to make a motion, Christine, on what would we be motioning on? Just the overall expenditures plus the 1,000?
So you would need to make a motion to approve the budget with the set numbers in those 4 categories for a total of what the total is. And then that's the motion. And then afterwards, you would talk about the mill rate that I'm putting in the packet.
Do we have to make adjustments for the $1,000?
Yes. So
What?
your government operating would be 5,319,361. And your new total is 21,638,432.
Thank you.
And then the debt, education and capital stay the same as they are in your packet already.
What do you do with the surplus, though?
That all depends on what the mill rate is.
Right, so the last page of the packet has an unofficial chart that shows the revenue summary, the expenditure summary, the grand list information, the tax rate, and the net tax rate after adjustments. So it shows there up in the top from or to the undesignated fund. And again, this is for information purposes only, not part of the budget. Mill rate to be determined and set by Board of Finance, says it on the sheet.
Gotcha. Little disclaimer.
So if Paul makes a motion now for the expenses as is plus the $1,000, then the second motion is to set the suggested mill rate. And so that would mean that it would either go in undesignated. There's only 2 options at that point. It's either going in an undesignated fund or lowering the mill rate. So,
Okay, so I'll read off all these numbers. Okay, I'd like to make a motion for general government operating budget of $5,319,361. Debt redemption of $1,382,949. Board of Education budget of $14,527,467. And a capital expenditure this year for $408,655. Do I have for a total of, thank you, $21,638,432.
Second.
Do I have a second? Second for Dan Smith. Thank you. Any more discussion?
I still want to put $44,000 into the walking floor trailer in the government line.
Thank you for that, Mike. Anything
And it would
else?
still give us a decrease to give to the town. The whole point, one, it's psychologically a lot. I don't think 0.15 is psychologically a lot, is much of a difference. 0.1 is a difference. Not that we're trying to get some budget to pass,
No.
but we do have to get a budget to pass. We also have to show that we are fiscally responsible with the money, and I think putting the money towards the trailer, so it's there, because we know what's gonna happen, it's a smart thing to do.
Thank you for that.
I agree with Mike, but I don't have any further discussion points.
Oh, I saw the mic on, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so there's a motion, a second, some discussion. I'd ask maybe from a show, like one at a time, all in favor? Mike Anderson?
It's not on.
No,
Carl Johnson?
Not 100% sure I understand everything. Can I sit on the side? Abstain.
You may.
Yes.
That's all right, so we re-add here. One no, one abstention. One yes. I'm a second yes. Dan Smith?
Yes.
Yes.
No.
And a no. So the vote is 2 noes, 1 abstention, 3 yeses. The motion passes. The motion does not pass. Oh, because it's not. Sorry, so that's,
That, I was wondering that's
No.
good, because if he had voted
No,
basically
it's
by
also
right, basically by abstaining, he would make it a passing vote. If it
that's
works
what I thought
that
it
way,
was.
right?
That's not how that works.
Yeah, okay.
what's
to
that?
know.
Sure, that's not how that works. We have the majority saying yes, and the minority in 2 different buckets. Why would that not pass?
Brett, do you have an answer on this? Because maybe I'm wrong. So
Yeah,
I believe it passes, and abstention isn't there. He's not voted.
It's like he wasn't here. It's like we only had 5 members vote tonight.
In every other organization, that's how it's run.
That would be my understanding, but I'm new at this gig.
It'd be my opinion that the motion passes.
and we got the lawyer.
We got the attorney speaking. Thank you, Counselor.
I was going to say, check with the lawyer on the committee.
Yeah. Great. So we have the motion's passed. We have a budget-ish. Now we can talk about what a mill rate might look like, a proposed mill rate might look like. So I'm on board with that 28.45, was it? I think it was. That takes care of all the extra cash other than 15 grand. What thoughts does everybody have on that? Before I make that motion.
Can we put the 15 grand on debt?
We can do anything we want. I mean, it's 15, I think there's some extra money there. I don't think we bother with a 28.437.
Put it on the undesignated fund. So can we put it in the undesignated fund just so when the trailer does die?
Yeah.
We can kind of say, hey, all right, well, we know this was gonna come down. We're trying to push it through winter. And we know we're gonna earmark that 15K and we're gonna earmark that 15K for, we know if it goes till, we can always take
Sorry.
that.
So you would have had to budget the money in the debt category to put it towards the debt. So at this
Oh.
point,
It's undesignated. then.
it goes to the undesignated unless you want to next fiscal year do an additional appropriation to put 15,196 to one of the loans.
Okay. So I guess that ship has sailed at this point. So I'm happy with the 15 grand going toward potential truck, potential trailer, potential building tear down, or any of the things that the undesignated fund would be used for. So we need that motion, Christine, for that proposed mill rate, right? Or is it just something, it's for discussion purposes, we just put that on the document?
Yeah, I think because it's for discussion purposes, because I'm afraid if you vote, then it's like you're setting the mill rate.
Yeah.
So I would just say,
The numbers work out to be the numbers.
yeah,
Yeah. 28.45 is for discussion purposes at the town meeting. Or, yeah, we can talk about it at the town meeting, right? It'll be in fact. Okay. I think that's all the business we had.
Excuse me, this is Winona. Can you just clarify for me what just happened? I guess I'm confused on what we're saying is happening with this surplus.
So right now, we're proposing a mill rate reduction down to 28.45. That surplus would be all but non-existent because of the reduced revenue coming in by the lower mill rate, less $15,000 that will have to go into the undesignated fund, if this is actually the mill rate that we have after the town meeting. So the 103,482 is now 15,000 and some change at the proposed mill rate of 28.45.
So did I just hear Christine say that we weren't setting the mill rate though? So
You
I
did.
feel like I'm in a circular reference loop here about,
so
Look at the back. Do you have the packet that from the other night?
yeah, I've got the last page open.
Okay, the last page on the very back side, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you see in bold where it says no information, for information purposes only.
Yeah.
So, and then you see above that, the tax rate in mills.
Mm-hmm.
We're proposing to have that not 28.6, but 28.45 when it goes to the hearing. People are going to see that. That's just for informational purposes only. We're not voting for it here. And it will show a number somewhere in the 15,000 range where that 109,742 is right now.
and Winona, we need it for page 2 of the packet in A 1.00 general property tax current. I have to put a number in there so people know what we think we're going to collect in taxes. They don't vote on the revenue side, but we have to have what we think the accurate number is in that cell.
All right, so we plug in 2845 on the back, 2845 on page 2. That generates the revenues and pushes through so that people can see revenues and expenses.
Correct.
And the expenses are what we just approved, the 21.6.
Right.
Okay.
We don't, Board of Finance doesn't actually set the mill rate. We just vote on the expense side and then the Board of Selectmen will vote on the mill rate.
Actually, we
That's
would,
not-
we would have the own mill rate.
I thought they set the mill rate last year. No, never mind. Oh, we had
Yeah.
to do it early. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Okay, never mind.
I'm just feeling better about my confusion.
No, that's good. No, it's a lot of numbers being moved around and also with the hearing and comments and changes. I agree. So I
Thanks,
think that, no, thank you, Mike. That was business for tonight. The last agenda item I have are public comments, if there are any more. There's no one in the room. Is there? Is there a hand up online? Okay. I would second that motion. All in favor of adjourning? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Thank you all. We are adjourned.